Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Elevate Your Life podcast. We're on episode 89 today. And Cheryl, we are talking about, we're continuing our series here on the 21 laws of leadership. Every Thursday, we talk about leadership. We're working out of a brand new version of the 21 laws of leadership that John Maxwell just released. So we encourage you to get that 25-year anniversary edition of the 21 laws of leadership and follow along with us. And you didn't fall too far behind because we're only on number 2. So you have time to catch up. Today, so Cheryl, today we're talking about the law of influence. Wow.
I just love that word. I just love the word, the influence. I love that. And we know that the true measure of leadership is influence, nothing more and nothing less. And that was so interesting. The first time I ever heard that, I was like, wait, isn't there a lot more to it? Isn't there? And of course there's some other things, and we'll, and you know, over the next few weeks, we'll learn those different things and what they are and how we can, you know, grow in those areas. But I just love the whole idea. I like it when it's simple.
Oh, listen, nothing simpler than one word.
That's right.
But it's so interesting, Cheryl, when we do live presentations, we ask the audience, what's leadership? You ask 100 people, you get 100 different answers.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone says influence.
I don't think so either. And but goodness, asking the master, right? I mean, he's the master of leadership, tells us it's influence. You know, John Maxwell, he tells us it is influence. And so it's like, gosh, that's so great though, because if there's something, or as we grow and learn, I really do believe that our influence does become more, right? We are able to influence people more. So,
So Cheryl, what is the definition of influence? We always like looking these words up and
I do love
seeing what Webster has to say about this topic here.
I love it. Well, it's the capacity to have an effect on the character, development, and or behavior of someone. So to me, that means, Paul, you have the capability to change someone's life, right?
Yeah.
That's said but in a huge way.
Well, you know, it could be either way. Obviously, a lot of people listening may be thinking about bad influence in their life. Yeah. Everyone's got a wild Wendy in their life that calls you up and says, hey, let's go out, you know, let's go cause some trouble, you know. And so there's bad influences out there too, Cheryl. I know you're not aware of that, but
Wendy, we're sorry that we use you as wild Wendy. Okay. Just saying. No, Paul, none of our listeners are thinking about bad influences. Although that should come to my mind first, because my mom always used to tell that to us kids.
You're a bad influence?
You don't need any bad influences in your life.
Okay.
No bad influences.
Okay. I know she didn't say you were a bad influence.
Oh, of course not. I was Wild Wendy, and my name isn't even Wendy.
I did have some air quotes on the Wild Wendy things. Oh my gosh, too good. So we're talking about influence, and you know, so people are saying, well, what do you mean leadership is influence? Like, what we mean that? So you're a mom, you're a wife, you've convinced a man you've influenced the man to dedicate his whole life to you. Yeah, I'll spend the rest of my life with you. So if you're out there married or you got kids, I mean, you've been an influencer the whole time. You just didn't know it. You weren't calling it that. Michelle, I know you're been a huge positive influence on your children, and it's always, you know, a challenge to figure out how exactly to do that. How do I influence them in the right direction? And I would say, just being an outsider, being part of your family and watching your family, you've been a huge role model, you know, showing them firsthand on what a woman can do, how a woman can be, and you can achieve anything you put your mind to.
Right. I think that is what it's all about, right? Very first being that role model. And the interesting thing to me about influence, and like you said, Paul, and you know, we kind of laughed about it, but you can go either way, right? You could be an influencer for the good or an influencer, you know, in the wild way. And I think realizing for me, or becoming aware that what influence is And then, like you said, how to influence your kids, especially like all moms and dads influence their kids, right? In one way or the other. And just really being that role model, I think, is the most important thing that we can do. And I love the whole idea of teaching kids, role modeling for them and influencing them. I guess that's a great word for it. To be strong and to know thyself. I love that, that they get to know themselves, and then really putting forth that effort to grow every day, I think, is super important.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, as simple as the word influence means leadership, there's another simple part to this whole thing when we ask the question, what do we influence people to do? There's only one answer for that as well.
Yeah, that's true, Paul. And it's to follow us, right? I mean, that's what we're doing. And I love that quote by John Maxwell. If you think you're leading, but no one is following, then you're only taking a walk. And right. I love that, because when I very first heard that, I was like, goodness, that is so true.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. And then, so it gets back, we'll go back to your children, so what you're trying to do is be the influence in their life, the person that makes the impact on them. We know that, unfortunately, in this country, in the United States, but really around the world, there's a super high divorce rate. There's a super high rate of children being born into single parent homes. And, they're being influenced by not necessarily their mom or their dad, but other people or other kids, and we've seen some real bad things happen in the world when that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And Paul, I want to be clear too. When I said, the number one thing that we do, we influence people to follow us, what I'm talking about, and this is just, and it's exactly what you're just talking about now, but I want to be clear that we're influencing people to elevate their life, right? To make a change, to make a positive change in their life. And it's so important. And look, it's even, I think, more important to be clear of how you're influencing your kids if you are a single parent.
Yeah.
Right. I've got a sister or two that are, that are single parents, and oh my goodness, my heart goes out to them. Right. I mean, it's so important to be clear as a mom and as a dad too, on the ways that you are going to influence your kids, because believe me, you are influencing them one way or the other.
All the time.
Right. Yeah. And it's the same way with the people that we work with, that we're involved with, that, we want to be clear that we are influencing people to elevate their life, to make a change for the better.
Yeah, absolutely, Charlotte. Every day I read this statement that re-centers me as far as leadership goes. And the statement is that the ultimate test of leadership is creating positive change in your life and the lives of others. And that's it. I mean, we're trying to influence people to do things a certain way in life, eat this way, take these supplements, exercise this way, all these different things that we, in every area of life that we are trying to influence people. Hey, listen, I know you're doing things this way, and from what I hear, it's not working out that well. So we have a better way. And we encourage you to join this Elevate tribe and to find a fabulous group and learn how people have turned their lives around. And Cheryl, you're the best example of that. I mean, you have all the right in the world to talk about transformation because of the transformation that you've made in your own life over the years. And every woman out there wants to be just like you.
Oh, I don't know about that, Paul. I don't know about that, but that's so true. And I always talk about, and I think it all begins with awareness. And I think a lot of times we get, especially in the last couple of years. We've kind of got on this I call the hamster wheel, right? And we're, we just keep going in the same place and the same, oh my gosh, and this and that. And now the world's coming to an end. And now we've got this going on and this and that. And it never ends. And so I think, and you and I were talking a little bit about this yesterday, and, we talk about it, I think, a lot, but it's really becoming aware of the state you're in. And then you have to change that state. And you've got to be, what I just thought of? Now listen to this, Paul. You're not going to believe this.
Wait, I'm not sitting down.
I know. Sometimes I have these great ideas. You can only be a great influence in somebody else's life if you have already have influence in your own life, because you do influence yourself, right? It's not like there's just you doing whatever and this and that. I mean, we've really, especially over the last couple of years, really concentrated and talked about how we have to influence ourselves. I mean, we've got to build our own character. We've got to, we have got to, it's almost like we're fighting against sitting on the couch and watching Netflix or, taking the easy road, right? Yeah. Because there's no success at the end of the easy road. I mean, let's just be clear.
Sure.
Right?
And to your point, Cheryl, there, we talked last week about the law of the lid, where if you're not working on yourself first and making your lid higher, there's just no way your team, organization, family are going to go anywhere. You are the controlling factor, being the leader on how high this is going to go. So it definitely starts with working on yourself. Leading yourself, that's the most difficult challenge in life, for sure.
Well, that's right. And having that influence to do the things that you're supposed to do every single day. Yikes.
Influencing yourself to do those things. Yeah.
Because nobody's coming, Paul. Nobody's coming.
No.
Nobody is gonna. Now that would be nice. And I know that every Disney princess wants that. And it happens for them. And that's fine, because your prince could write in. But here's the whole deal. You have got to influence yourself and, be on your horse and doing your own thing also, I think.
Absolutely. So Cheryl, let's talk about the 5 levels of leadership as it applies to influence here. So we talked about this before, but the number 1 level, the first level of leadership, and we're working from the bottom up if you're looking at the notes. And again, the notes are at elevateyourlife.com. Just put in your name and email address and we will send you a link to get to these notes. But there's a great picture we have in our notes here of the 5 levels of leadership. And we're going to start at the very bottom, the position, we call it, John calls this the position level, where it just basically you're someone's boss. And the only reason they're following you is because they have to, or they'll be fired.
And sometimes that doesn't even happen, Paul.
Right.
Oh yeah. And, so you're
just because you're a manager someplace doesn't mean you're a leader.
Oh, that's absolutely true. That is absolutely true. Okay, so number 2. So the first one was the position, right? So the people have to follow. The people follow you because they have to. So number 2 is permission. People follow you because they want to. Okay, that seems like a huge jump to me. From 1 to 2 to me is like a massive jump.
Yeah. But we've all had that one boss, at least I shouldn't say we all have. Hopefully, I know you've been through a lot of jobs, Cheryl. So I'm gonna hope you had one job at least.
That means that I didn't.
That you just, and Dr. Waller could be the person. You
That's
just
right.
like that person so much you wanted to work harder as an employee because
absolutely
you wanted the whole thing to work out, and so you're doing it because you want to instead of because you have to.
Well, because you respect them.
Yeah.
And because I think, especially with Dr. Wallach, he was able to share that vision with me. And I knew that I wanted to be on that road with him.
Yeah. And I see that the people who build relationships with their team are the ones that do best here, because, when the relationship is there and that's tight, the team just wants to follow you now. They just like you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And number 3, Paul, is because you're just an awesome person and you have been able to produce, and people have seen that you can produce and they want to be a part of that, right? So people follow you because of what you have done for the organization. And I think that that's more of we talk a little bit about this, and I think it's one of the law's mirroring. And so they want to mirror what you've done, and they see that you've done a lot for the organization. So they want to follow you because of that.
Yeah. And one of the I think the way we got to level 3, Cheryl, was really when we implemented RPM in our own lives, and started asking, what is the result we're trying to get, instead of what do we need to do today? Because when you ask what do I need to do today, you got this list of 200 things, and probably none of them are the ones that are going to move this whole thing forward.
Yes.
It's all about the whirlwind and that to-do list. But when you ask what result do I want to get for my team or for my family or my whatever, and then list the reasons why, the P, the purpose of it, and then come up with the strategy, the map on how we're going to go from here to here, point A to point B. That's when you produce real results, and people can see the real results. And now that they're following you on a whole different level, you're influencing them on a whole different level now.
Absolutely. And that's a hard question. I mean, make no mistake, the hard question is, what is the result I want? And that might take you a little bit of time, but very well worth the struggle.
Yep.
Right. Just so you know what it is you want, because you're never going to get it if you don't even know what it is. Take it from me. Yeah. Okay. So number 4. So let's see, Paul, let's go over them again, just real quick. So position is number 1. Permission, so the people follow you because they want to, is number 2. Number 3 was the production. You've done something great for the team and people want to follow you for that reason. Paul, what is number 4?
Well, Cheryl, it's people development. And this is where now you're not just leading a team, but you're producing some managers underneath you and some leaders on your team. So it's not just about you. You've built an inner circle now of people, and you're starting to learn about delegation. And, you have rubbed off on those people, those key people, so much that you've duplicated yourself. You've now created people who are just as good, if not better than you are. And
I love that.
That's the place to get to.
Yes, this is my favorite. I love this. I mean, I think it's really, really good. Yes. And then, okay, so Paul, I love that. And then number 5 is the pinnacle, right? So that's respect. And I love this because if you do 4 long enough, then the people or your team will put you into, you will become a number 5 because the people put you there, which I think is, I mean, I don't think there could be anything better than that, right? You've worked 1, 2, 3, 4, you've gone all the way through this, and you've done it long enough, and you've done it in a way that people, of course, start to respect you and follow you because of who you are and what you represent. That's what I think is, oh my gosh. And I love that he calls it the pinnacle, because absolutely, that is exactly what that is.
Yeah. And the story that really comes to my mind, and of course I love sports and I love Michael Jordan, where I always refer back to him as well as John Maxwell does as far as leadership goes. So you've just been traded to the Chicago Bulls, and Michael Jordan's on the team. I mean, you instantly have respect for him because, so this whole top level is because people follow you because of who you are. I mean, they, people come on your team all the time, Cheryl, because it's Cheryl Morley. She's the most unbelievable woman and leader in the world. And so people want to be part of that.
Well, I'll tell you, when you just were talking about that, I, of course, thought of Tom Brady. And I think it's the same
thing.
And the way, and I think it's so interesting because both guys that you just mentioned, I mean, when you think about them, yes, of course, they're leaders, and yes, of course, people gravitate towards them, but it's because of, like you said, who they are, their work ethic. They're in the gym before everybody else. They're doing more than everybody else. And then people, I think, gravitate to that.
Well, yes, and they've gone through every single level. Like their teammates aren't just following because they have to. They've really followed because they want to. And he's produced amazing results over the year. And not only that, but with Tom Brady and Michael Jordan, if you played on their team, every single player will tell you that I became a better player because I was on that team with him. I mean, he actually,
Yes.
you know, made them better. And that's really what the respect comes from in that level 5 is what is just the amazing accomplishments that these people have made. And all of us can do that in our own lives. We don't just need to win world championships or Stanley or Super Bowl trophies. We can do it in our own families, in our own organizations, in our own lives, get to a place where, and there's a lot we consider all day and name people that you just have to respect them for what they've done for their business. You know, Steve Jobs comes to mind, you know, just an epic person who, I know we work with Steve and Michelle Wallach at Youngevity. They're just epic. You know, they've produced results for 25 years now, done an amazing thing. Dr. Wallach, we have the utmost respect for him because of what he's done over the past 40, 50 years.
Absolutely. And I love that you said that, Paul. Every single person can become a pinnacle leader, right? It's just, you know, again, becoming aware that there's these 5 steps. You take the 5 steps, you do the things that you need to do to become and grow into this wonderful leader. And I think that really, to me, it all comes down to is you were talking about sports and it's all about, like, I followed Dr. Wallach because he made me want to become a better person or a bigger person or become successful or right. And so I think that's really what it's all about, because you said that all of the teammates would say that they've made that the leader or the person has made them become a better person or a better player. And I think that we can do that in our own lives in every way, just like you said, Paul. And that's what I think is so cool, because I believe that that's why we're really here, right? We are here to help people elevate their life in every aspect of it, and to have people on your team that want to follow you because they want to become a better person because of the things you've done. Oh, that just really that gives me goosebumps, Paul.
Yeah, it does. That. It really does.
Yeah.
So what we did today in today's podcast, Cheryl, is just go over the basics of what leadership is. We know it's influence. We introduced influence to everybody, and we're going to, this is obviously a huge topic. It is what leadership is. So we're going to continue on and talk about influence, in upcoming podcasts, mentioning it as often as possible and helping you come up with ways to be a better influencer. And Cheryl, again, we're going to really focus first on how to influence yourself, how to get yourself to do the things that you know you need to do in order to be a better person and be a better leader. So I'm super excited about jumping right into that in our next podcast. So Cheryl, this has been awesome. I think people got a lot out of this. Of course, the +1 here is that leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. And we look forward to working with you every single Thursday here on the Elevate podcast to help you lift your lid and elevate your life. So Cheryl, have a great day. And we'll talk to you next week.
Absolutely, Paul. And you guys remember, it's time to move from fine to fabulous.
Yes.